Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May, New Jersey via SHR Media and streaming live via Facebook. Very happy to be with you this evening. I can now say evening since it's getting dark at 5 o'clock now. It's pitch black outside and it's only 5 o'clock. My guest today is Anna Sergunina. I hope I got that right. Anna Sergunina. She's the president and CEO of Main Street Financial Planning Incorporated, and she's going to talk to us today about the Money Roadmap Challenge. So I'm excited to talk to her this evening, and we should have a good old time talking about money and the Money Roadmap Challenge, and see whether or not it's for you. I'm sure it's going to be very beneficial. But before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to thank some of my sponsors, John Campbell at Cards for Biz Now, Eva Rosenberg at taxmama.com, and Robert Houston at creditrepair.biz. Thank you very much for supporting the show. I appreciate it so very much. Also, I want to talk to you about a little bit of Money Talk news. I would be remiss. I had Money Talk news prepared, which I always do, but I was looking at the stock market today, and this is not on my list, but the stock market hit another high today, right before I got on the air. So I thought I would mention that. I think it broke 28,000 today, which is amazing. It's up like 20%. And the NASDAQ, if I'm not mistaken, is up like 30%, something ridiculous like that. So I thought I would mention that to you guys, that those are just amazing numbers. And in the meantime, there are impeachment inquiry hearings going on. So I felt the need to mention that because that is kind of that's really important. But it's just amazing that you have these impeachment inquiry hearings going on, and the stock market seems to not be bothered by it at all. It's kind of strange because normally, if you're having some kind of issue like that with arguably the most powerful person in the free world, then what typically happens is that, the stock market gets scared and you'll see a little bit of a sell-off, but you don't see that happening in this instance. I think that the market is probably pretty well aware that, in my opinion, President Trump is not going to actually, he may get a vote for impeachment in the House, but he's not going to get removed by the Senate. That's just my prediction. There are not enough votes in the Senate, and I think they would have to persuade some 20 some odd senators to vote for Republican senators, that is, to flip and vote for impeachment, and that just doesn't seem like something that's going to happen. So the market doesn't seem to be reacting to these inquiry hearings in the least bit. So I felt like since that was such huge news, I had to mention that before I went on to my regular boring list of things that are going on in different in different businesses and whatnot. The state of New Jersey, where I reside, is fining Uber some $649 million after an audit found that $530 million in taxes hadn't been paid for unemployment and disability insurance. That's crazy. From 2014 to 2018. This is according to the New York Times. The state is accusing Uber of misclassifying its workers as independent contractors rather than employees. Yeah, I thought that was the situation. And so it's asking for an extra 100. New Jersey is asking for an extra $119 million in interest. I'm not surprised because New Jersey is probably one of the least most business friendly states in the union, but it's crazy. But what's kind of unique about this situation is it's the first time in history that a local government demanded back pay from the ride-hailing giant. And in this case, it could have a lot of repercussions throughout the entire gig economy, which people who do things like drive for Uber and things like that is part of the whole gig economy. But that's an incredible fine, and we'll see how that works out. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't end up in court. Speaking of New Jersey, the New Jersey, New York area, you might want to avoid flying in and out of New York any of its three airports. And here's the reason why. According to the Wall Street Journal annual airport ranking, which grades airports on things like average fare and convenience and things like that, the New York airports had some very poor rankings. So you might want to avoid them. They were ranked among the worst in the country. Poor New York. New York's having a lot of problems these days. At least in my opinion, they definitely are having some issues these days. Let's see, what else do we have in the news? Wall Street. I'm looking at some comments in the Facey chat, and Ron Edwards, who I have a brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming up during the break. But Ron Edwards in the Facey chat says that's because Wall Street knows the hearings are BS. I think this is probably true. Yes, and delays in New York airports are definitely a pain. What else is happening in the news? Oh, okay. So I thought this was kind of a cute story. If you are a fan of the flip phone, it's now kind of a retro phone. And as a matter of fact, there's a museum that has that old Motorola Razor. Remember those? Well, apparently they're bringing the Razor back. I had a pink one, so I'm feeling very nostalgic about it right now. But they're bringing those phones back. I don't know if they're bringing the pink one back, but at a $1,500 price point, for $1,499 to be exact. They better bring the pink one back, but they're bringing it back, and this is according to a report by Bloomberg that Motorola is bringing back the Razor phone. Now, the only thing about the Razor phone is I kept breaking them because of my big old cheeks. So I don't know. I remember that. So maybe they're making them more durable, but I kind of want one. I don't know if it's going to be like a Razor smartphone or what the situation is, but I kind of want, because that wasn't like I think that was the Razor phone was like pre-smartphones. So anyway, I thought that was kind of exciting. And it says in the report by Bloomberg that the original Razor sold 130 million units before Apple launched the iPhone in 2007. So yeah, that was right before the iPhone came out. And right now I'm an iPhone girl. Can they get me back? I don't know. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Anna Sergunina, and I'm very excited to talk to her. We'll be back in a few minutes. Brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming your way right now.
In every facet of life, people either improve or deteriorate rapidly. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, whether people experience an improved quality of life or simply exist in a bubble of deterioration or choose to be a drag of society, it is ultimately up to them. For 6 decades, Black Americans and now 47% of white Americans support leftist policies that, if fully enacted, would literally spread the misery long experienced by Black Americans who have voted for Democrat lawmakers that promised them a better life at everyone's expense. But all they got were broken promises, broken neighborhoods, broken families, and broken dreams. Today, Democrat Elizabeth Warren is promising $52 trillion in medical benefits paid for by the wealthy who provide jobs for millions of Americans. If the voters foolishly choose her for the presidency, there will be a massive economic struggle for everyone and a deterioration just like many American cities that crumbled under the weight of overly expensive false promises of the Democrats. Wake up, America. I'm Ron Edwards. Check out theronedwards.talkspot.com for news updates and other great stuff. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's IMRCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live here in beautiful Cape May, New Jersey. And my guest today is Anna Sergunina. I'm very excited to have her on the show. She is the president and CEO of Main Street Financial Planning Incorporated. She's going to talk to us today about the roadmap, the money. I left out the most important word, the money roadmap challenge. A little bit about her background. She's a certified financial planner and president and CEO of Main Street Financial Planning, the nation's largest fee-only, hourly, project-based financial planning business. That is awesome. She and her team are on a mission to help both private and institutional clients make smart financial decisions through one-on-one work and financial planning as an employee benefit. Anna has been involved in the financial services industry since 2003. She's both a CFP and holds her CHFBC designation. Her long-term goal is to grow Main Street into a household brand for financial planning. Anna was named a virtual force by Morningstar and is recognized by Financial Advisor magazine as a top young advisor to watch. This was in 2017. Anna is an advocate for financial education, writing about financial education topics for publications in Business Insider, Forbes, USA Today, NASDAQ, and the Wall Street Journal. She also teaches her flagship personal finance management course, Money Flow System, and engages followers during her weekly Facebook live show, Money Date Show. And without further ado, Anna Sergunina, how are you?
Hi, Melanie. Thanks so much for inviting me over. I'm doing great.
I'm thrilled to have you. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but you guys need to check out her website. It's awesome. Main Street Financial.
Appreciate it.
No, it really is. It's really great. It's just really comprehensive. I like it. It's just fantastic. So, and I'll probably post a link in the Facey chat. Did I leave anything out of your introduction that you might want to add or tell the audience about?
No, you got everything. Thank you so much. We will be chatting about Money Roadmap Challenge, but no, that's great.
Yes. You have a very comprehensive resume, and you're the exact person to talk to. And I love the way your business operates. I just think it's really a fantastic thing, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show so very badly. So the first thing, I'm sorry, I just went right into.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
So one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about is when you talk about creating a money roadmap, what do you mean?
So yes, it's a very elaborate question, but I'm happy to talk about this. So my team and I have been creating financial plans since 2002 in this kind of unique space in my industry, because most of what's happening in financial services and how it's kind of leading, right, and how it's gaining consumers' attention is through either product sales, or you have to have $1 million to be able to qualify to get quality financial advice. But that's rather challenging for most of people right here in the United States. And we chose this path of where we could work with anyone, right, and everyone, really, without having to put any of these kinds of boundaries in terms of having to sell you products that you don't really need or know that you need yet, or having to have a minimum of income, assets, or any of those things. And so that's kind of how Main Street came about, is that we work with Main Street folks and really focusing on the planning piece, because there's a lot that goes into understanding what is it that you want from your money, right? And then setting up a structure, right? And the structure, I mean, figuring out how much you need to save, how much money you need to make, how much money your investments need to make, and sort of everything kind of falls out of that. And when we, over the years, right, we've kind of envisioned this more, and financial plan is a very sort of one-sided sort of box kind of idea, concept. It really works. It does, right? Because you've got to have some kind of clarity or direction where you're going. So that's where the plan comes in. But we started to think of it more in terms of a roadmap instead of a plan, because life happens to all of us, right? And somewhere along the way, it would be great to be able to make adjustments and changes. And so with a roadmap, you have those opportunities, right? Because people change jobs, move, get married, have kids, retire, take vacations, buy homes. I mean, the list goes on. And when you have, when I describe a roadmap, I kind of think about back in the old days when we just started to have, this was before the Razor phone, by the way. I also had one. I have had a pink one too, Melanie, so I'm with you.
That's exciting, right?
They were awesome. I mean, before we knew the iPhones for sure, but yeah, I'll have to consider one. But back in the day when we had those pink Razor phones, we used to have MapQuest, right? And remember, we would print directions. Like if you wanted to go from one place to another, at least I used to do that. You would print directions, and you'd have like one page, turn by turn instructions. And so that was a way for us to navigate. I kind of envision a roadmap in the same sense for your money, right? And the big aspect of it is that it's flexible and it's adjustable, and it doesn't have to be scary, because that's one thing for a lot of people. And I described why. But most people are, sometimes stuck on certain ideas or stuck with and not wanting to make changes, or they're bogged down by a situation or circumstances they're in. Maybe they have debt. Maybe they don't make enough income. Maybe they don't understand finances. Never taking courses. There's a lot of different reasons why. And so if we simplified and really help them see it as that MapQuest, right, navigation tool, then my goal is for everybody to have one, because there's no reason why they shouldn't. We can talk more about what it entails, but in general, I hope that gives you an idea.
It does. And that kind of brings me to another question. Earlier you said, and this is very true, full disclosure, I'm a licensed insurance agent, so I deal a little bit in the financial planning on the side.
Yes.
And a lot of times people think that they have to be, sometimes depending on the company that you're dealing with, you do have to have a certain amount of money, like you said, in order to even deal with a financial advisor. But a lot of times people think that if they don't have enough money, there's no need for a financial advisor, there's no need for insurance, and there's no need for any type of financial planning. But is that true? Does how much you make matter as far as financial planning is concerned, or does everybody need it?
No, I completely agree. It is actually quite not true, and all of us, regardless of income levels, because income is not what dictates whether you have complexity to your life, right? Yes, income. I guess most assume that the more money you have, the more problems you get to face. But I think it's quite maybe the opposite. People who don't make a lot of money may be experiencing just as many issues and questions, and they tend to think that, oh my gosh, I don't qualify. Like nobody's going to ever want to talk to me. Like I don't make enough money, or I haven't saved enough to work with with an advisor. And I also and I come from the arena where I like to, as an advisor myself, right? I like to look at everything from like a 360-degree view, right? I put my glasses that give me that ability, right? My professional glasses that give me that ability to see when a client shows up right at our doors, to see that and be able to recognize, regardless, right, of any of these limitations that kind of exist out there for no particular reason, and really think about, okay, so what do we have to do now with this situation to help improve it, right? Is it to save more? Is it to pay the debts? Is it to get more insurance? I'm not against insurance at all by any means. We all need to have certain insurance coverages right in place because a lot of people lack that. And so the list goes on. What is it needs to happen? What kind of questions that somebody needs to work through to get moving forward? So yeah, I've been a big advocate for consumers, and that's why our business model is positioned in a way that when somebody lands on our website, as you mentioned, it's pretty clear. It's straight to the forward. We list our prices. We tell you exactly what you're going to get. Right. The question for you as a client or prospective client is to decide whether you want to go through the process, you want to commit. Right. It's almost like having a personal trainer at the gym, right? It's like, you know what you're going to have to do. You have to do your exercise. You have to diet. You have to do, drink your water and all of that. Same thing for your money. So we've tried to kind of, model that idea. And really just because it's hard and it's human behavior that gets in the way. And you guys all know it.
That is so true. And I just posted the link to your website in the Facey chat. If you're listening to this via a download, it's mainstreetplanning.com. And one of the things that I like about it is it's kind of like financial advice a la carte, as opposed to, like, I know when you normally approach a client, I think sometimes when we approach clients about financial planning, it can be overwhelming, right? Because we're doing this 360 picture of their whole financial situation, and there's so many kind of moving parts to that. But I one of the things that I like about your website and your business model is that it really is a la carte, and you can kind of pick areas that you want to work on.
Exactly, and this is kind of why I think this is a good segue to sort of wean into Money Roadmap Challenge. This was the exact reason why we decided to create the challenge to begin with, because a lot of people would feel overwhelmed, right? They feel already overwhelmed to begin with. They show up at our doors. We're like, oh, we're going to do all of this, which sounds great, right? But it sounds scary at the same time. And sometimes the time demands or constraints, exist, and all kinds of things that get in the way. But what we found, also in thinking about the challenge, because, we wanted it to be something that folks will actually want to work through. And so we looked at, first of all, the kind of clients we work with, and also, again, on our website, we also list, or we segregate in terms of what our offerings are. What would they be more suitable for someone who is starting out, for example, a young family, having kids, right, getting married, buying their first home, versus someone who's maybe a little bit older, got the kids lunch, thinking about retirement. So, like, there are different life phases, right? These individuals, right, or families facing different decisions. And so there are different questions they may be having, right? One may be just starting out and thinking about how to get themselves organized and begin the savings journey. Others are kind of coming to the sunset. They're like, okay, we're going to transition into the retirement. We're going to start enjoying our hard work, right? And so with the Roadmap Challenge, and it's a 4-week long, 28 days, 4 weeks, but every week we have a specific theme that we're focusing on. The very first one is mindset. Like, that's the first thing to tackle in anything that you're going to start doing. Because if you have some of the weight still on your mind, or some of the ideas, and it takes time, right? It's not just, hey, just listen to our daily videos or work through our workbook, and all of that is going to disappear. No, it takes some time to work on that, but at least we can clear those blocks to begin with. Then any new information or any new concepts or topics that you're going to learn in week 2 and 3 and 4 are going to just be received much better. But we start out with that, and then of course, all of us have to look at our spending, right? Or where the money is going. It's not like, you notice I don't, and I'm by far, I think, probably one of the weird advisors, if you want to call me that, but I don't really have a budget personally, right?
What?
It's more about, yes. So budgeting isn't a favorite thing of my, for myself, but I've got to figure out, or have an idea how all the money is spent, right? And where it's going. So I'm more for spending plan, right? And I've got, got ways and systems in place. And you mentioned I have a what's called a money flow training course. It was really designed for that, because I still do not like that, the budgeting thing. Just and I know, and I'm just like everyone else, right? It feels like it's putting constraints on you when I'd rather focus that energy on how more expensive, right? What can you do to expend? Well, what can you do to maybe make more money, right? What can you do, to look at this from a different lens? So spending tackled first, obviously debt. If there's debt issues somebody's facing, you can work on that. And then because we've got to build a map, right? And like an example of when you have to print out directions for your MapQuest travel, right? If you want to go from, let's say, San Francisco to San Jose, I'm in Northern California, so that would be the kind of map you would get yourself. You will have stops along the way, and if I translate that or use that analogy to bring over to the finances, that would be creating your own goals, right? And in financial planning, goals they're quite different, right? They're different than you would normally would say, okay, I have a goal to lose 10 pounds, or I have a goal to, run a marathon, or just anything. With financial goals, you have a very specific date that you want that, or you should want to have happen, and a particular dollar amount. A simple one I could, give you right now would be, I want to buy a car, right, in 2 years. And I need to have so much money saved up either for a down payment, right, if I'm going to buy it on credit, or I'm just going to save up enough to buy it for cash, or if I'm going to lease it, I'm going to still have a down payment. So that's a very specific goal versus just not having any concrete deadlines. And when you start putting all of this together, so we actually walk you through how you can create those goals on your own. And that's by far, I think, the most interesting piece of this whole work. Most of our clients like that. And as you progress through the weeks, we actually, of course, talk about investments because that's on everybody's mind. You mentioned today the stock market is through the roof, which is awesome. We'll take all the gains we can get, right?
Indeed.
But it's also, I'm sorry?
I said indeed.
Yes. But it's also, so, there are different times that we all go through, right? In terms of what happens out there, right? And we have no control, right? Like you were talking about some of the political news and how the stock market or the corporations, right, and the investors are reacting. But there are some things that we as investors can do. And regardless of what's happening out there, we can still have a strategically thought approach of how to invest. And because I'm not an investment manager, we don't manage accounts at our firm. It's rather the approach of what is your timeline? How much time do we have until your goals, right? Example, a very simple one, needs money, like the car example, or retirement example. And, what are you going to do, right? How do you position those investments? And because we're not managing, we really like the idea of low-cost options, right? Because that also helps with the return overall. And then obviously you're going to love this one, Melanie. There's the last piece of all of this is to make sure you have the right protection in place. And so we translate that into making sure you've got all of your different insurance coverages in place. And it's from auto insurance, homeowners, renters, condo insurance, life, disability, long-term care, health insurance. So basically kind of running through the whole gamut of all of that, because it may not apply to everyone, but most of these will be in your plans out there. So it's really robust. It's designed to have a lot of different topics. But what I love about the challenge is that if you have a particular idea or a particular question in mind, you can just come in and just tackle that, because we've got trainings for you to work through one or two areas, and you can move on, or you can come back and revisit and do the next part, or it's really flexible, but it allows you to create, because that's what we'll do for a client if they came in to help us put this roadmap together, right? So when you work with someone like myself, one-on-one, that's what happens over a period of time. But because again, I think this kind of advice should be available to everyone. That's why we create the challenge. And also, a lot of times, I think, we live in modern world, right? Technology is out there. A lot of this information exists, but what really helps, I think, with working through the challenge is that you have access to advisors to ask questions. So it's not just Googling doing anything, right, and finding certain articles to read. It's more about participating and being able to ask questions so you know that you aren't making a mistake.
And those things are nice, but it doesn't, you can't ask yourself all the right questions when you read those articles. That's why it's nice to have a person to talk to.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And so what we'll also do is throughout our challenge, every week, we have a Q&A session. So live Q&A session, much less like you're talking about streaming this show to the Facebook group. And so we have the same thing. There's a private Facebook community that you can listen. Other people ask questions. You can ask your own and sort of gain knowledge and don't feel like you're doing this alone. That's the whole piece is, maybe you want to just test the waters to see, how your finances can improve, or you have a particular need for one of the areas I've described, or you just like never done it before. You're like, what is this financial planning thing all about? So we've kind of thought all of these angles and designed this challenge for that.
Certainly. And I think that people don't recognize how they can make their money work for them and how different, different things can be used as a financial tool, like the insurance aspect. Sometimes, people think, well, I'm not really thinking about life insurance or long-term care or anything like that. But, not only does life insurance protect you, but it also can be used as a financial tool. And so when you start thinking strategically, rather than just thinking kind of on the surface, it makes a big difference.
Oh, it definitely does. Yes. But that's why I think it's really important to clear out the blocks, right? The mindset first, in order to start seeing some of these things from a different angle. And also, I believe I'm a long time, believer in education, right? So you learn new things, you understand more concepts. And my entry into the financial services was just by accident. It really was. I wasn't, my degree is in finance, but not personal finance. And so I've had a whole bunch of challenges myself when I started, right, as a young adult, not knowing anything I was doing. So I've made all those mistakes, but was eager to figure out how to be better. And so, I'm kind of partially blame it on the fact that in our education system, money management or like finance 101 courses aren't really, part of what we get to see in school, which is sad. So I wish that was more out there.
Only 6 states in the country require it. The only reason why I know is because I teach it. I teach financial literacy to high schoolers in one of the 6 states that require it. That's the only reason why I know that there's only 6 states that require it. Yeah, out of 50. Yeah. And that's ridiculous. Yeah. And those kids have no idea how fortunate they are.
No, for sure. So they're going to grow up knowing some of these basic things right off the bat. And when they're going to be faced with what we all see as normal everyday kind of decisions, do I get a credit card? How do I open a bank account? Right. And some of these other things that some of us take for granted. Oh, I know how to do that. Well, some people don't. It's just not like, so it's like math or reading, writing. So it's, I'd love to see more of that. And so, how do we make those other states, make it mandatory to teach these courses?
Exactly.
Right, Melanie?
That would be a smart move. We're up against a quick break, and so I want to take a break right now. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We are talking with Anna Sergunina. She's talking to us about the Money Roadmap Challenge. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Conservative media, unrated. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest today is Anna Sergunina. She's talking to us about the Money Roadmap Challenge. I did have a question in the Facey chat, but I needed him to clarify, Anna. So if he clarifies that question, I will give you what the question is, but I didn't quite understand the question. It's about, so people, okay. Okay. He said he wishes he could shorten it up, but he would try a little later to shorten it up. If you will, as a way of investing in your community. Yeah, I didn't understand. Unfortunately, I didn't quite understand the question, but I did want to ask you this. As far as the Money Roadmap Challenge, I talked a little bit in the open about Uber and them having problems and how the problem might affect the gig economy. And there are so many people that are working within the gig economy that I feel like, they feel like they probably have a harder time doing something like the Roadmap Challenge because their income varies the way it does.
Yes, this is the biggest variable income is the biggest challenge for all of us, today in our modern world. Like Uber and all of these companies presented an opportunity, but it also created a whole bunch of problems. Not just income varies, right? But most people not having great understanding of their finances and running into troubles like not paying taxes on time or allocating enough for future needs and so forth. So and one of the things, I kind of backtrack a little bit when I mentioned the fact that I don't like to budget. It's just really never worked for me. And the real reason it never worked for me and my family, right, is because both my husband and I traditionally have been on variable income.
Right.
He sells commercial real estate, so he sometimes doesn't get paid for like 3 to 6 months, right? So there's not a paycheck coming in, and I'm a business owner, so that also varies for me as well. And so when we finally, struggle through, trying to figure out, this traditional budgeting works because it assumes that you get the same thing every month, right? It's like, it's hard to have the variation, or even not so much income. It's also how many of you would say, all right, well, I don't pay my bills on the monthly basis. Sometimes you would pay it once a quarter, right? Sometimes you would pay it once a year, and then you have to assume. So I had to figure out a way to kind of get away from that, but yet have a handle on where the money was coming from, when it was going to show up. Obviously, can't predict that, but until it was going to show up, something had to be in place. And so that's where the money flow system course was born, the system was born first because I wanted to straighten it out for myself. And then I later on was like, well, I've got to share this with others because it seems to work. And basically what I really learned to do is to have kind of a baseline understanding of where we need to spend our money on the monthly basis. So what our fixed bills are, what our variable bills are. And once we get a handle on what our fixed bills are, and most of you guys out there can do that because they're fixed. They're the same every month. And so when we do have a paycheck coming in, we split it into two checking accounts to make sure that fixed bills get paid. They all set up on auto pay. And then whatever, early days or when we have a bad month, as I would call it, our variable account does not get a lot of money to spend. So that's when you make a decision about going out to dinner, or, if you're tracking how many cups of coffee you bought, you kind of have more discretion. But separating this into these two bigger, broader categories, right, fixed and variable expenses, really gave me that peace of mind knowing that bills are paid, I'm not missing anything. And also, later on, I was able to add to my fixed bill categories things like savings, right? Or I have clients who have debts that they're working on and they're paying off. So it becomes your fixed automatic bill that has to be paid. But I really like that aspect of saving because it's not like most of us think of it, I'm going to make a paycheck, right? Even with the gig economy opportunities, right? You're going to make your money, and then a lot of times it's like, I'm going to spend it here, spend it here, spend it there, right? And so at the end of the day, you have nothing or hard to show for something. So it becomes more of like, my goal is to save $1,000 a month, and so it's on my list of fixed expenses. When the paycheck comes in, it's automatically, right, deducted for that. And so basically you're practicing that concept of paying yourself first, right, until everything else happens. And so that's how I, over time, solved it for this issue, right, which is still, our life hasn't changed that much. We're still in the same, businesses. And so it's gotten much easier, and it don't have to be on the top of this that much. I mean, we have what I call weekly money days, just to talk about, how things are, how we're doing with our spending, and, are you making basically a question to my husband, or he's asking me how's the business going? But that's it. This is really kind of how that budgeting, right, or the scary thought of budgeting translated for us into something that's more manageable. And so if folks take challenge, part of the bonuses that they get when they participate in the challenge, they actually get access to my money flow course, because it does take some time to set it up, and create these accounts and really get the system going. But it really does play into that spending side of things, because I think, again, it really has given me a lot of peace of mind, and the fact that income can be variable, and it doesn't have to stress you out too much.
And I know sometimes I think just tracking, because I'm not a big budget girl either, but sometimes just tracking your spending is a way of budgeting, because you look at I remember one month, this was a couple of years ago, I had been tracking my spending, and I hadn't looked in a while to see how I was doing. And I had spent a ridiculous amount of money on clothes, like the previous month, just on clothes, not because I needed them. I don't know who I thought I was or whose bank account I thought I had, but I was like, oh my Lord, no wonder I'm broke. I spent how much on clothes last month? Good gravy. Yeah, we had to put aside I had to put myself on a self-inflicted clothing sabbatical. No more. Not another stitch for a couple months. But and even spending things on like coffee at the local convenience store and that kind of. You're from California, so you probably don't know about Wawa, right? Unless that's
Yes.
Do you?
I do. I used to live on the East Coast. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, some people.
Really well.
Yeah, my brother lives out there in California. He said that's one of the things that he misses as well. He lives
Yeah, don't have them here. We'll got other places for sure.
Yeah, but if you go to Wawa every day, just for another example, and you're not thinking, like you were saying earlier, how much money you're spending just on coffee. That it can add up quickly. You're like, wait a minute, why am I spending $75 a month just picking up my morning coffee? That's crazy. So maybe I should start making my coffee at home and save that $75 a month. But it's really tricky. So I think you were mentioning earlier that the roadmap really can depend on what your personal circumstances are, like whether or not you are getting ready to retire or whether or not maybe you just had kids or you just got married. I guess those roadmaps are going to look a little bit different depending on the circumstance.
Totally. I think everybody should have a roadmap. They're going to be different depending on what your goals are, what you're doing currently, where you see yourself going. But everybody's going to face some of these most basic things, right? We all got to know where we're spending money. We're all going to think about saving, right, at some level. So there's some kind of, things that apply to everybody, but then it gets to be really more about what's your unique situation right now. What questions are you facing? If it's a retirement, then we're talking about Social Security. When do you take it, right? Or like if it's health insurance, or if you are participating in this gig economy, as we've been talking, like what are some of the things you can do, right? Where do you get your benefits? How do you get health insurance? And the list sort of goes on. So yeah, it's really flexible and unique in a way that you can make it work to be your own.
Indeed. We're coming up to the close of the show. Thank you so much for being on today. Can you tell the audience how they can hook up with your Facebook group, how they can avail themselves of your products, that kind of thing?
Yes, totally. You've shared my website, which is mainstreetplanning.com. MoneyRoadmapChallenge.com is going to take you directly to where you can sign up for the challenge. You can start taking it anytime. You really sort of start your own 28 days, and you go on with it. I'm on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Main Street Planning Inc. Just Google for the name of the company, and you can also Google my name, which is Anna Sergunina, Sergunina, and you'll be able to find Facebook, Instagram, and connect with me there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Melanie, for having me here.
Thanks. You have a great weekend. I want to thank everybody who is listening to the show via download. I want to thank everybody who's here live and on the Facey chat. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching the live chat. I also want to thank people who have sponsored and supported the show for years. TaxMama.com, Eva Rosenberg, John Campbell, and Robert Houston at creditrepair.biz. Thank you guys so much for always supporting the show. Thank you, Doug Poss, for being there, and Laura Lee and John Campbell for being in the chat, and Ron Edwards of Ron Edwards Notebooks. Thank you so much for being in the chat. I want you all to remember that this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a great weekend.